There are some wounds we don't speak of, not because they have healed, but because we have learned to build our lives around them. The scar from a past failure, the crack from a broken heart, the invisible weight of a path not taken. We hide these parts of ourselves, convinced they are signs of our weakness, fragments of a life that was supposed to be perfect. But what if this is the great mistake? What if the wound wasn't the weakness, but the path to your power? This is not a new idea. It is a piece of timeless, cross-cultural wisdom. The ancient Stoics of Greece and Rome believed adversity wasn't something to avoid. It was the very material from which character is built. And on the other side of the world, in Japan, the masters of Kintsugi developed an art form based on the same profound truth. They repair broken pottery, not by hiding the cracks, but by highlighting them with gold. Two philosophies, one single, life-changing message. Your scars are your strength. This is what the great Stoic emperor, Marcus Aurelius, meant when he wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." The inner battle of a flawless world. Let's speak to the quiet feeling that lives in so many of us. Maybe you've carried a sense of shame about your past for years. A failed business, a broken relationship, a mistake that still echoes in your quiet moments. Maybe something deep inside you feels unworthy, not because of the failure itself, but because of the heavy silence that followed it. The feeling that you are now damaged goods, a flawed version of the person you were supposed to be. The poet Khalil Gibran wrote that your pain is the breaking of the shell that encloses your understanding. Yet we are terrified of that shell breaking. Our culture reinforces this fear. It is obsessed with pretending. We are told to project success, to show only our best moments, to curate a life story free of error. Our social media feeds are museums of perfect vacations and flawless families. Our professional lives demand a posture of unshakable confidence. We are taught to fix things quickly, to patch the cracks, to sand down the rough edges, and above all, to never let the world see that we were ever broken. But some things in life aren't meant to be fixed. They are not problems to be solved. They are experiences to be integrated. They are wounds that, when tended to with wisdom and courage, do not leave us broken, but make us whole in a way we never were before. The Stoic lens: acceptance over resistance. This is where we can turn to the profound wisdom of the Stoics. They offer a powerful lens through which to view our pain. Stoicism teaches us not to resist pain, but to use it, to allow it to shape our character, not by numbing it with distraction, but by understanding it with clarity. The pain itself, they argued, is not the true source of our suffering. Our judgment about the pain is. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this, you have the power to revoke at any moment." This is a revolutionary idea. So often, we take a single event from our past and turn it into a permanent identity. A business that failed doesn't remain an event. It turns into the belief, "I am a failure." A relationship that ended doesn't remain a memory. It becomes the belief, "I am unlovable." We label ourselves by our pain: the divorced one, the one who made the wrong choice, the one who wasn't good enough. We build a prison out of a memory, but pain is not an identity. It is a teacher, and it only becomes a cage if we keep rehearsing the shame instead of learning the lesson. As the psychiatrist Viktor Frankl taught, when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. Accepting what happened, truly, radically accepting it as a part of your unchangeable past, is the first step to revoking the painful judgment you have placed upon it. It is the first step to freedom. Kintsugi, the philosophy of the golden scar. This idea of transforming pain finds its most beautiful expression in the East, in the art of Kintsugi. In Kintsugi, a broken ceramic bowl isn't thrown away. It is seen as having a new, more interesting life ahead of it. The artisan carefully gathers the broken pieces. They are not trying to hide the damage. They are preparing to honor it. They patiently mend the pieces, and then, in an act of profound beauty, they trace the lines of the cracks with lacquer mixed with pure gold. The break is not hidden. It is highlighted. It becomes the most beautiful and celebrated part of the object. The finished piece tells a story. It says, "I was broken, and I was put back together, and now I am stronger and more beautiful, not despite my past, but because of it." As the poet Leonard Cohen sang, "There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in." Now reimagine your own life through this lens. This is not just a poetic idea. It is a radical shift in perspective. It is an invitation to see your history not as a list of damages, but as a map of your strength. Imagine if your anxiety wasn't a flaw, but a golden scar, a testament to the battles your nervous system has navigated. Imagine if your failed business wasn't a mark of shame, but the Kintsugi repair that gave you priceless, hard-won wisdom. Imagine if the heartbreak you endured wasn't an ending, but the very thing that cracked you open and allowed you to develop a deeper capacity for love and empathy. It is choosing to see your past not as something to be erased, but as something to be illuminated. The wound as a credential, a modern parable. How does this work in a real life? How do we turn a scar from a source of shame into a source of strength? Think of a woman named Sarah, a brilliant executive who, in her late 20s, founded a tech company. The company failed in a very public and spectacular way. For years, she carried this as a deep source of shame. It was her scar, and she did everything she could to hide it. She never spoke of it. She buried it on her resume. She felt like a fraud in a world that only seemed to celebrate non-stop success. The wound was a weakness, a secret to be guarded. One day, a young entrepreneur, fresh out of college and full of fear about starting her own business, reaches out to Sarah for advice. As they talk, Sarah feels the old shame, the old fear of judgment. But then, she makes a choice. She decides to stop hiding the crack. She tells the young founder the whole story of her failure, the mistakes, the pain, the sleepless nights, and most importantly, the hard-won lessons that could only be learned through that specific fire. A strange thing happens. The young founder doesn't see her as a failure. She sees her as an invaluable source of wisdom. Her eyes light up with recognition, not pity. For the first time, Sarah sees her scar not as a source of shame, but as a source of connection and authority. Her greatest shame became her most powerful credential. Her wound became a light for others. As the researcher Brené Brown says, vulnerability is not winning or losing. It's having the courage to show up and be seen when we have no control over the outcome. Sarah's vulnerability, her willingness to show her scars, became her greatest strength. So, let me ask you to reflect for a moment. What if the parts of you that you hide are the very parts someone else needs to see, to know they're not alone? What if your strength doesn't come from being untouched, but from being transformed? The empowering turn. Integrating the pain. This leads us to the great, empowering turn in our own story. You are not broken, you are becoming. Your cracks aren't failures. They are pathways for light to enter and for your own strength to shine out. When you stop hiding them, you stop hiding yourself. This requires you to embrace the chaos of your own history. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche understood this. He believed that the most beautiful souls were often the ones who had endured the most, the ones who had a great capacity for suffering because it meant they also had a great capacity for joy. He wrote, "One must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star. Your past chaos, your pain, your failures, this is not lead to be discarded. It is the raw material from which you can give birth to a dancing star of wisdom, of compassion, of a strength you never knew you possessed. You don't need to be perfect to be powerful. You just need to stop pretending you were never broken." This acceptance is the beginning of true power. It is the quiet confidence of a person who has faced their own history and is no longer afraid of it. The scar isn't the end of the story. It is the signature that proves you lived, you endured, you fell, and you had the courage to rise again. It is proof that you were not fragile enough to be discarded. It is proof that you were valuable enough to be mended. The great writer Ernest Hemingway believed this, stating, "The world breaks everyone, and afterward, many are strong at the broken places." Like the gold in the cracks of a broken bowl, your scars don't just make you whole again, they make you priceless.